Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of the Blues News podcast. Actually, the last episode of season one. Just want to say a quick thank you for all the support in season one. How far the podcast has come and stuff in quite a short amount of time has been amazing. We're ending season one off on a bang today because we've got an absolutely amazing guest, somebody you all know, Shrimpers legend Ian Benjamin. How are you, Ian?
Good, thank you. Very good. You?
Brilliant. Yeah, really excited to have you on. These kind of ones from, a bit longer ago and stuff like the ex-players, I really enjoy. They tend to be the most interesting ones I find. So, really excited to have yourself on. I was saying to Ian just before we start that with these podcasts, if you haven't watched one before, we don't just talk about his time at Southend. We're going to try our best to get through as much of your career as we can. Obviously, a long career and so many things to talk about, but fingers crossed we can get through as much as we can. So if we start literally from the first kind of moment really. So you were born in 1961. What was your childhood like growing up, and how did football become part of your life?
My childhood, I had a brilliant childhood. Really excellent. We had. I'm one of 10 children, so
Wow.
6 boys, 4 girls. Not a lot of money going about. Things were always tight. Everybody worked and gave the money to mum, and she cooked and fed and looked after us. Very strict upbringing. Very disciplined upbringing. But very happy because I'm very fortunate that I had the mixture of that discipline, but also the love as well, and that's very important when you bring in children up. So yeah, very good. And like I say, 6 boys. All the boys were interested in football. My eldest brother, I don't know too much about, but the other 3, 4, 3 of us, 4 of us, all my brothers were very good at football. One of them came close. He had a trial at Notts County, didn't quite make it. Another brother broke his leg just as he was going to sign for Nottingham Forest under Brian Clough. And my brother Tristan, he played for Notts County for 20 seasons, I would say, 19 seasons, I think, 18 seasons. And then he finished off, I think he had a season at Chesterfield. Yeah, he had a great career. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you were 5 then, in 1966, I think when I talk to a lot of people who are kind of born at that time, you think about the World Cup and it really inspired a lot of young children to play football. So you were 5 when England won the World Cup in 1966. Do you remember anything of that kind of time and the excitement in England? And do you think it inspired you in any way to start playing yourself?
I vividly remember watching it. I do remember watching it. We had a black and white television, and certainly the last goal really stands out, where Jeff Hurst runs through, and they're saying, the fans are on the pitch, they think it's all over, and then he's scored the goal, and that's a great commentary. It is now, So yeah, I do remember that, and I think I'm not sure if that inspired me, but I used to play a little bit with my brothers and that when I was allowed when I was younger, and I think one day they realised when I was about 8. I sort of dribbled past all of them, and they realised. They went, "Wow, crikey!" They said, "Oh, you've got something," and it sort of went from there, really.
Well, your first club that you really played for in the youth team and then went into the senior team was Sheffield United. If you want to just talk a little bit about your time at Sheffield United, any memories that you have there?
Yeah, I sort of turned Nottingham Forest down because my brothers told me they'd throw me in the River Trent if I ever signed for Nottingham Forest because they were all Notts County supporters.
All
So,
right.
and I remember on the day we were watching them play against Sheffield United because we had a cup final after the game. And I remember saying to my friends, Sheffield United are rubbish because they got beat 6-1 by Forest on that day. I said I'd never sign for them. But a month later, I did, and I was. Dad had been turning clubs away.
Mm.
I know there was two of them. One of them was Leeds, and another one was Wolverhampton, who were quite a big side in them days. Dad kept turning clubs away. So when I was about 14, so um, Sheffield United came in, and I was 15, and they invited me over, and I went over there, and it was just had a really good feeling about the club and everything. So I signed for them, and I spent most of that season playing for the youth team at 15, but also I played 2 games for the reserves against Aston Villa and Manchester City, who had a guy called Colin Bell, who was one of my favourite midfield players. He was coming back from injury, and I remember playing that game. I think we got beat 10-0 by one and 6-0 by the other, but it was a great experience for me because I was, like I say, I was still at school. And as soon as I went to the club as an apprentice, I went straight into the reserves. I didn't play in the youth team. My first reserve game was against Coventry City away. I think we lost 3-2, but I played quite well in the game. Back in those days, I was a midfield player, and yeah, and I eventually made my debut as a 17-year-old up at Cardiff City. I came on at half time in a game which I always tell people that I changed the game because it was 0-0 at half time, and then we got beat 4-0 in the second half. So they had a guy called John Buchanan playing in midfield, and he scored a hat trick, all from 30 yards.
Oh,
That's what I
God.
remember. But my debut was played alongside a chap called Bruce Rioch, who was on loan to Sheffield United at the time. Bruce Rioch had a tremendous career, Scotland and Aston Villa and Scotland international, and a great person. You know, after chatting with him all the way down to Cardiff for 4 hours and asking him all sorts of questions, I remember coming away thinking, when I'm experienced, I want to be like him. He was a wonderful man. Yeah.
In 1979, then, so you signed for West Brom, you left Sheffield United, and I believe the fee was about £100,000, which is a lot of money, but particularly back in 1979, at just 18 years old. So, how did that move sort of come about? And also, do you feel like the amount kind of added a little bit more pressure on you?
Um, I actually was going down to meet the Sheffield United club doctor at the train station, because he was also the club doctor for the England under-18 team, England youth under-18 team. So I'd got called up to play for the England under-18s. So I was going down to London to join up with England under-18s. Just as I was getting on the bus, somebody came out of the hostel that we stayed in and shouted, "You've got to go down to the ground instead." And I was like, "What?" And they said, "You've got to go down to the ground." And so I went down to the ground, and our manager at that time was Harry Haslam. I was signed originally by Jimmy Cyril, but Harry Haslam was the manager, and he pulled me in the office, and they'd had a bid for Alexandro Sabella, who was an Argentinian player who at that time, that's Argentina. I'm sort of moving away, but a little bit. But Argentina won the World Cup in '78, and Alex Sabella came from River Plate, and part of the deal was that we played River Plate, who had half the side that played for Argentina in the World Cup, and it was. And I actually came on in the last 20 minutes of that game, so it was that was a great feeling. But Alex had played for that season for us, and there was a lot of clubs interested in him, and he turned down a few of them. Sheffield United were in a situation where they needed some money, and Harry Haslam said West Bromwich Albion had come in and made an offer for you. It was 138,000, which in today's game probably would be around about 15 to 20 million, I would imagine. And we've accepted the offer. And I said to him, "I don't want to go." And he said, why not? It's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity. I said, I love it here. I really enjoy playing here, and I really did enjoy playing for Sheffield United. I loved it. And he said, well, it's a good chance. It's a good, opportunity to go and, to play at a high level. And so I think you should accept it. And back in them days, I didn't have a mobile and things like that where I could ring my brother and say, what do you think? It was happened, and I ended up travelling down to West Bromwich, had a medical, signed for the club, and then went off down to London to meet up with the rest of the England youth team squad at a hotel.
Did you feel a little bit unsettled by that move then?
As regarding, no, I didn't feel under any pressure. I was 17, and I didn't feel under pressure at all, really. But I did feel as a young lad, moving to Birmingham, it's a big city. I wasn't sure I was going to react to that. I was in a hotel for 3 months, and I found that very difficult. Fortunately, after 3 months, my sister got a job in Birmingham, and I moved in with her. So I felt a little bit more settled. But my first season at West Brom didn't go well. Probably because I didn't really have any friends or anything like that. The players, obviously, Birmingham's a big place, and a lot of the players lived 15, 20 miles away, and that, so you couldn't really mix. You didn't really mix together, So the only ones I sort of particularly got on with was a lad called Martin Bennett, who was a really good centre half. Unfortunately, he had a bad injury after 3 or 4 years, and he had to retire when he was about 23 or 24. And another lad called Remy Moses, who went on to play for Manchester United, who left to go for Man United. But they lived quite a fair way away as well, so it's very difficult to make friends,
Well, throughout the 80s then, you went on to play for quite a few clubs, Notts County, Peterborough, Northampton, Cambridge, Chester and Exeter. So it was quite a period, I know at Northampton and Peterborough in particular, you played quite a few games, but it was quite a period of jumping around, playing for a lot of different teams. So was it a little bit unsettling not quite being able to just stay at one club, or did you quite like the experience of playing for a number of different teams?
Yeah, I didn't realise it was going to go like that, because obviously when I left, things went really well for my second season at West Brom, and the start of my second season at West Brom went really well, and it obviously took me a while to settle, and I ended up playing really well in the reserves. And towards the end of the season, I started to get involved with the first team, and I made my debut at Ipswich. I came in the last 20 minutes. The goalkeeper, Tony Godden, got injured, so Brian Robson went in goal, and I came on in midfield, and that was my full debut. I was sub for the next game against Stoke, and then the last game was at Leeds United, and I made my full debut at Leeds United, and it went really well. We went away in the summer to Canada and America on tour, and Brian Robson was by then an England international, so I was playing in all these games. And I remember the manager saying to me, "When we get back, next season you're gonna train with the first team all the time, and you're gonna get a club car and a new contract." And I thought, great stuff. So I got back, and within 6 weeks of getting back, Ron Atkinson had been given the job for Man United, and then we had a new manager come in, and obviously Brian Robson was signed by Manchester United at that time. They came straight in for Brian Robson, and then a little while later they came in for Remy Moses, and I was at the just coming back to the club from somewhere, and I saw Remy leaving, and I offered him a lift down to the hotel, and the manager came running out of the office, and he said, "If you give him a lift, you're finished here." And I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yes. If you give him a lift, you're finished." And I said, "I don't believe it. I don't believe that. That's petty." I said, get in, Rem, and I dropped him off up the road, and I dropped him off down the road. But that was the end of my West Brom career, because he let me go after that, and I'd been playing really well in the reserves, absolutely, playing really well for the reserves and that. But he let me go, called me in, he said, I'm letting you go, and that was it. And all of a sudden I was without a club. So I moved to Notts County, and I wasn't there for that long, really. I was only there for about 4 or 5 months on trial on a short-term contract, and I got injured towards the end of the season. So I got released, and while I was at home in Nottingham at Mum's house, I got a call from this fella. He says, how do you feel about going to South Africa for 2 weeks? They're offering you £10,000 to play 2 games for 2 weeks. And I said, well, that's a lot of money, and it was a lot of money back in those days.
Yeah.
And so I phoned my brother, Tristan, and I said, I've just been offered 10,000 to go and play in South Africa. And he said, yes, I've been offered 25. And I said, I said, are you going? And he said, no, I'm not, because last summer we went on a tour with South Africa with Notts County, and Pedro and I had to go on a beach different to the white players. So he sort of spoke to me about apartheid, and I understood it. And so I went back to the chap and said, no, I'm not going. And he said, oh, that's a surprise. It's a lot of money. I said, well, there's certain things come before money. And so I didn't do it. But he rang me back 2 minutes later to say that Martin Wilkinson had got the job at Peterborough and he wanted to sign me. So, he passed me over his number. I spoke to Martin and went over and signed for Peterborough United. I had 2 good, I would say I had a year and a year. Good First season was not too bad. I was split in between playing midfield and up front. And one of my old teammates, John Wild, took over at Peterborough. And but then onwards, it didn't really go quite well enough for me, and I don't really know why. Maybe I just didn't work hard enough. I don't know. Yeah, and I got released from there, and ended up joining up with Northampton Town. We had a very difficult start to the season. There was no money at the club whatsoever. The wages that I was earning was poor, really poor, really. But after the first, we had a manager, Tony Barton, who'd won the Champions League or the European Cup with Aston Villa. He took over, had a heart attack just before the season started, so it was a little bit difficult. But after about 10, 12 games, he put me on up front. Funny enough, at Southend United, in a game, I think I came on in the last 20 minutes because I just had an injury, and played me up front. And then on the Tuesday we went to Wrexham, and I scored 2. And on the Saturday we played at home against Aldershot, and I scored a hat-trick. And I scored 19 goals that season in a side that finished second from bottom of the league.
Wow.
And we had a new manager come in, 𝗕𝗃𝗡𝗝𝗡, and new board and everything. And it's a bit like what's happened at Southend recently. New board members and everything changed, and they changed it all around and signed a lot of good players. And my second season, I scored 26 goals for Northampton, and we finished 8th. And the season after that, I scored 23 goals, and they were all league goals as well. And we won the league. We won the league that season, scoring over 100 goals. I think we got 9. Can't remember how many points we got, 99 or something like that. And the following season, things just didn't start very well for me, and I don't know why. I can't really put my finger on it really, but and the manager kept bought, which rightly, because I didn't do well enough, rightly brought another striker in, and then I moved on to Cambridge United. and which was one of the worst moves I've ever made. I think it was the worst moves that I've ever made, because I went into a dressing room that was terrible. There was a terrible atmosphere in the dressing room. Some of the players didn't actually even speak to me for the first 2 weeks while I was at the club. So my time at Cambridge lasted about 10 months, and we'd moved house. So if you're talking about football, it's also your family life as well, your life as well. And I was with my partner, who I'm still with now, and we moved. So I signed for Cambridge. We moved house, and within 10 months, I left Cambridge and signed for Chester. So we had to rent our house out and rent a house down in Chester. And I would say that it went okay at Chester, but not quite as well as I would have liked. And the manager pulled me in one day and said, "Things aren't working out great, but Exeter City have come in for you. Would you be interested in going there?" And I did, because I knew the manager was 𝗘𝟗𝗡𝗝, who was an ex-England 1966 World Cup winner. And so I signed for Exeter, and I think I got injured. Yeah, I was out with an injury for the start of the season, but Exeter City, when I finally got myself fit, I came back, and I played midfield that season for Exeter. So when I got fit, I think just before Christmas, I managed to get back in the side, and we had a really good run. And I'm trying to think now. Yeah, we had a really good run, and but we had a bit of a problem with the people that was renting our house. So I had to go and see the manager and said, "Look, I think we're going to have to move back down south, you know." And he went, "Oh, okay." So there wasn't initially many offers. I had an offer from Kettering Town, which was is local to me now. And they made me quite a good offer, really, to be fair, but I wanted to stay in the league. So I held out, and then I got a call from 𝗘𝟗𝗡𝗝𝗄, and he said, David Webb at Southend United, I would like to sign you. So if you'd like to make your way down there. So I made my way down to Southend, came into the office at Southend, and was chatting with David Webb, and he was talking about, what he wanted me to do and everything, but I didn't realise where he wanted me to play. And he says, "Oh, yeah, it is up front that you're going to be playing," and that brought a bit of a smile to my face. And I felt, although I enjoy playing in midfield, I'd sort of got used to playing up front, and I really enjoyed it. So I signed for Southend, and that enabled me to travel from our home, because we trained at where did we train at again? I've forgotten the place. We didn't train down in Southend. We trained somewhere that was about 20 minutes from Southend, and yeah, it was about an hour's journey for me, so that was fine. Yeah, I helped the club get promoted at the end of that season. I think I scored 2 or 3 goals, 3 or 4 goals maybe. I think one was against Colchester, and I can't remember one of the other goals, but we got promoted at Peterborough when Crowney scored 2 good goals, 2 good finishes, and then obviously after that we know how things went on from there, and I sort of David Webb offered me a new contract, and from there onwards it seemed to go. Things didn't go well, between him and the chairman, and then David ended up leaving, and chairman and I had a little bit of a fallout. He thought I'd shown him the red card. There's a famous thing where all the players showed the chairman the red card, and he thought, as captain, that I was the one that led that, but he wouldn't have it. But actually, I didn't. I was the only one in the dressing room because I would never go on the pitch for a warm up, and I would under no circumstances would I go on the pitch for warm up. I used to warm up in the dressing room, and I remember Kevin Locke coming back in, sort of with us, sort of shaking his head. I said, "What's up?" And he said that the lads have shown the chairman the red card. And I said, "Who got them to do that?" And he said, "Well, I think somebody from the crowd had asked them to do it." You know, I said, I wouldn't have done that because the chairman pays our wages. But so I ended up starting the next season at the club still, but without a contract. I had a really good start because Brett had pulled a muscle in his thigh, and I scored, I think it was 8 goals in the first 16 games, so I was 1 in 2. Really good start, and Luton came in for me, and I moved to Luton again. Didn't have to do the travelling, and I sort of I don't think I really ever got over leaving Southend, but I did all right at Luton, but I wasn't particularly happy. I wasn't particularly happy there. I didn't. The lads were all right, but I didn't enjoy it. But David Webb had gone to Brentford, and I signed for Brentford about a year later, and picked up a couple of injuries, which was unlike me, really, and that sort of set me back there, and things didn't go well, and I ended up leaving there as well, and I signed for Wigan, and Wigan was my last club. Didn't enjoy the travelling, struggled a lot. I had a lot of injuries again there, mainly my hamstring because of the travelling, and by then we'd had 3 children, and I was missing them, so I decided to go and see the manager, and I decided to retire at Wigan. Yeah.
Something that you said earlier that I just wanted to come back to. We're going to talk about your time at Southend in a little bit more detail in a moment, because I'm sure it's a Southend podcast, so people want to hear about Southend, of course. But one thing you said to me that was quite interesting was about Cambridge and the dressing room there, and I believe it was Cambridge, and obviously a really, you didn't enjoy your time there. What was it about that changing room that was so bad, and what was going on at the club at the time?
I don't know. Chris Turner was the manager, and really, I always feel like when I went into his office to talk to him about signing, I should have just turned straight back around and gone back to Northampton, and because I mean, I think in today's the way football is today, I don't think people would have accepted it. But I walked into the dressing room, and his first words were, "F me. They didn't tell me you were black."
Wow.
And now I've got quite a good. I think I've got quite a good sense of humour, and I sort of shrugged it off. But I thought, you don't really know me enough to be able to actually say that, really. And so I ended up signing for him and thinking that, and having doubts straight away. And then I walked into the dressing room, and John Beck, who ended up being the manager at Cambridge United, I was there for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden he came up and said, "Oh, my name's John Beck. Pleased to meet you." And I told him where to get off. Basically, I said, "F off. You could have made me feel, more welcome when I first signed for the club." But none of the other players really spoke to each other, and there was 1 or 2 fights between the players. 1 or 2 of the players. Peter Butler name was one of them. Yeah, it was just not a great atmosphere there. And David Crown was there at the time. David was one of the only ones that spoke to me. He was good. He's a good lad, David. Obviously met up with him again at Southend, but
yeah, of course.
David did come up and did make me feel welcome. He was a good lad.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll talk about your time at Southend then, because I'm sure everybody wants to hear about your time at Southend. So if you just talk overall about your time at Southend then, what were your kind of favourite memories? We're going to talk a little bit more in depth. We're obviously going to talk about the Bury game in a moment, but if you want to just talk about your favourite memories and maybe any funny memories that you have at Southend.
Yeah, I suppose there's a few really. obviously a few. The game at Peterborough when we won promotion, when Crowley scored those 2 goals. That was a great moment. Very good moment. And that I did get kicked by one of the Peterborough supporters because they were all on the pitch after the game, and one of them kicked me, and I turned around because I was angry, and the policeman grabbed me, and I said, "Why are you grabbing me? You should be grabbing him," And I think that little running, and then at the end of that season, David Webb made some really tough decisions on a lot of the players and that, and changed it up, and we had a totally new squad at the start of the following season. I don't think anybody expected it, but there was a feeling in and around the club and the dressing room with these younger players that David Webb had signed, that the club had signed, and there was a feeling, but you don't know it until the games start. I don't think we did that particularly well pre-season. I think we lost most of the pre-season games, but we started off and the season, and we had a very, very good run. Obviously, still gutted to this day that we were top for virtually, I don't know how many months we were top of that league, but Cambridge came through. Fair play to them, and nipped us. I think we were just maybe the last 2 or 3 games just a little bit wary. Certainly I was, because I'd had a lot of problems at home because my wife was ill for the last 3 months of the season. She'd got hepatitis, so I had a lot of running about to do at home with the children, and I'd going to bed late and then coming back straight away after training. It was quite hectic for me for that period, and I think I suffered a little bit because I don't think I scored for 9 or 10 games maybe, and I was feeling it. Definitely after the Bury game, I felt it. I felt that the manager probably should have left me out for the last few games, just maybe used me as a sub or something like that, but I definitely felt the last 2 or 3 games, and we needed the points really. But I did sort of hint to Kevin Locke, the assistant manager, that the manager, that I should be left out maybe, for the sake of the team really. But it didn't happen, and we didn't quite make it. But some of the performances and some of the teams that we beat, we were well beat at 1 or 2 places, which was disappointing. But in general, we did very, very, very well, and the lads worked really hard, and we got what we deserved, really. Yeah.
Something that you said earlier that I found really interesting was that you didn't ever go out on the pitch before the game to warm up. You actually stayed behind in the changing rooms. When did you start doing that? Was that something that you picked up literally from the first moment you started playing football, or was that something you picked up a little bit later? And what was the reasoning behind that?
I've always done that up until I think when I went to Wigan, they made me go out on the pitch to warm up. But I always used to doing my own thing. Paul Clark and I were the only ones in the dressing room, and we did our own thing. The manager allowed us to do that, and that's just what I did. I did my own stretches and stuff, and then when I went out on the pitch, I made a great big run to one side of the ground and then up the line, and I felt I was ready then, and that was my pre-match thing, and mentally it worked for me. Nowadays they have to go out and warm up together, and that I'm not sure that's the right thing. I think if you're a good professional, you can go out, you can look after yourself and get yourself ready, and mentally I always think that's better for the player.
Absolutely. Well, you said there about at Wigan they made you go out. Did your managers ever have an issue with you doing that?
Well, staying in the dressing room?
Yeah.
Not really. No, I don't think any of them did. I think obviously football's changed nowadays, and But no, not really. None of them really said to me, "No, you know, you've got to go out on the pitch and that." So yeah, I looked after myself. Yeah.
Well, obviously, one of the things that you knew I was going to talk to you about, we'll talk about it now then. So the 1990-91 season, and of course that game against Bury. If you want to just talk about the season as a whole, and of course that Bury game as well.
Yeah, we started off the season. I can't actually remember the first game, but I think the second game was Crewe. I think, I'm not sure. I might be wrong. The supporters will know. But for me personally, the game went well. I'd had a bit of a slow start, hadn't scored through pre-season, and I think really my position at the club was in doubt at that time. And then I scored one of the goals against Crewe, and that seemed to help me lift my confidence and my performances. And I think within about 2 or 3 months of the season, the boss came in and offered and gave me a rise, on my contract. Didn't give me a new contract, but he gave me a rise, and because I'd already got that season to go. So I was pleased with that, and I think we'd played. I was particularly away from home. I think when things were tight, I would come up with a goal to win the game, and as I did at Mansfield. And in just in tight situations in general, I would probably be able to come up with a goal which would help win us a game, and that in general. And I had a partnership obviously with Brett, and Brett wasn't what you would call an all-round player. He was a goal scorer, and so he used to like to conserve his energy for around the box, things like that. But anywhere else, that I learned very quickly that I would have to do it, and which sort of took me away from the box really. So whereas at Northampton I played up front with 𝗕𝟯🬡, who was an excellent player, good all-round player. He ended up playing for West Ham and Man City. Trev did. I could sort of get around the box, and but with Brett I learned that I had to do that because that wasn't his game. So my game was to hold the ball, get hold of the ball, and set the play up, and help create chances for the rest of the team, which I did quite well. But I think I also scored 16, 17 goals that season as well. So I sort of played my part, but in a different way to what I did at Northampton.
Yeah.
And I thought Brett worked really hard. Put a massive amount of effort in every game. And he when the chances came for him, he took them in general, and ended up doing very well. I think he scored 26 goals. But as the season went, I think we were very tight at home. I think we were winning games by the odd goal, maybe 2-1, and we showed a lot of character. We had a lot of character in the side, a lot of character, and we were winning games, close games at home. Didn't particularly keep clean sheets, a lot of clean sheets, but we were just nicking games at home, and I think that's, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you win. It's as long as you win, and we were doing that, and before you knew it, we'd sort of got a few points on a lot of the other teams, and the excitement starting to come in with the supporters. The crowd started to build, and there was a lot of excitement. But we always had our feet on the ground. We had a good dressing room where there was a lot of young players, but one or two experienced players as well, like myself and Paul Clark. Dave Martin was sort of mid-20s, but had a good head on him. A fantastic player. We had a lot of strength in that midfield area with Dave Martin and Peter Butler. Dave was exceptionally good player on the ball, and Peter was a tiger. Won all the battles, and that's where I think we won a lot of the games that season, really, through those lads in the midfield. But then we had people like 𝗕𝟑𝗡𝗝𝗏 and Andy Answer who would get you goals, and so the goals were shared about. And in certain games, these lads would come up with a goal. Dave Martin also included in that with us regarding the goals. He got into double figures. So yeah, so a lot of the games we'd pull through. Sometimes not playing the best football, but other times we'd play some good football and score some good goals. But it was just about battling through. In my eyes, we were just a hard working side, and we never gave up. But even I remember a game at Birmingham where we were 1-0 down with a few minutes to go, down to 10 men. Dave Martin had got sent off, and Andy Answer came up with an equaliser in the last few minutes. And I think we nearly even nicked it with the 10 men. So we were very good, and we were very good in that way.
Absolutely. Well, if we talk about the Bury game then, so for people who don't know, I can't imagine you don't know if you're a Southend fan watching this, but obviously a huge game in our history. You scored the winning goal to get us promoted to the second division for the first time in our history. So if you want to talk about that, the game against Bury then, such a huge game in our career. Yeah, it was scoring the winner as well. So just talk us through that.
Yeah, it was a funny weekend, really, because on the Friday, the boss called me in to the office, and I thought he was going to leave me out and it would have been deserved, because as far as I'm concerned, because I hadn't scored for 10 games. He had this real faith in me, though, which not a lot of other managers have showed. And he said to me, I'm going to. I walked into his office, and he looked at Kevin Locke, and he said, "Benj thinks I'm going to leave him out." And Kevin sort of smiled, and he says, well, "No, I'm bringing you in here just to let you know that I'm going to play you on the left side of midfield." And I was like, "Right, okay." And I thought, "Why is he doing that?" Because I think 𝗕𝟑𝗡𝗝𝗏 had been ill or something, or missed a game, and it was back. And Christian Hislop had come in at left back. And done really well. Young lad, 17, 18 years of age, did tremendously well. And he said, well, they've got this lad, Lee, who went on to play in the Premier League, or, with Southampton. He said, I just want you to use your experience to help Christian out, but also I want to try and play as many players in the side who can score goals, and that, So he'd left Brett out. He was leaving Brett out towards the end of that season, and so Brett started up front with Andy Answer, and Lockie on the right, and 𝗕𝟑𝗡𝗏𝗏, unfortunately for him, had been ill, so he missed the last 6 weeks of the season, I think.
Okay.
And so I had to play on the left-hand side of midfield, and when the game started, I thought we didn't start too badly. It was an awful game. It was an awful pitch. The wind made it really difficult. It was a bobbly pitch. Both teams, Bury were fighting to get in the playoffs, and obviously we needed 3 points to win. And bearing in mind I hadn't scored for 10 games, I thought, well, it's a relief I'm playing to start off with. Paul Clark and I drove up to Bury. The rest of the team flew there by plane, and Paul and I didn't like flying, so we drove there to the game, and then the game kicked off, and it was the wind made it really difficult. After 20-25 minutes, we had Pat Scully, who had signed for us on loan from Arsenal. He got sent off for a tackle on Lee. I suppose I said to the referee it was his first tackle, but it was a bit of a wild challenge. I think Dave Martin had tried to get him just before that, and so we ended up playing with the three of us. Dave Martin had to go back to centre half, and there was me, Peter Butler, and Adam Locke, who played three across the midfield, and we kept the Brett Angel and Andy Answer up front. And they didn't really offer a lot. We didn't feel that really that we gave them a lot in the game and that, but we, I think, out of the two sides were the more likely to maybe get an opportunity, but it's very difficult. And I remember there was Andy went down the wing and put this ball across, and I was a bit in two minds whether to get into the box or not, because obviously we're down to 10 men.
Yeah.
And I didn't go in, and the ball came to exactly where I would have been, and I remember thinking, damn, you should have gone in. Next time that ball comes across, make sure you're there. And of course, Andy Answer, 5 or 10 minutes later, went down the right hand side and passed the ball to me, and it fell at my feet. And you've seen the goal, you know what happened, and it's only looking back now that when I score the goal, I look straight behind the goal at the supporters, and I thought, crikey, how some of them didn't break their legs or something, running down those terraces, you know, how they didn't hurt themselves and that, you know, they went absolutely wild. It was a great moment for them and a great moment for everybody that was involved.
Absolutely, and something that came out of that game was, of course, probably one of the most famous chants in Southend history. Who put the ball in the very net? You knew I was going to mention that at some point this
Yeah,
episode. So, how did that
yeah.
feel? You know, seemingly overnight, you've become a hero at Southend. Really, you know, absolute cult legend, pretty much overnight because of that goal, and you know, they're all singing your name. How did that feel?
Yeah, it's you know, it's still something which I'm really proud of. You know, I'm proud of not just me, but the rest of the players and everybody that was connected to the club, the supporters themselves, and that. You know, it's whenever you know, I had a situation at Peterborough where my friend, a lad called 𝗘𝗃𝗡𝗝𝗝, had been invited out onto the pitch to meet the supporters, and the guy there said, "You might as well come onto the pitch as well," because they were playing Southend that day. It was Chrissy Powell's second game in charge, and we walked onto the pitch. And when we walked off, Trevor said to me, he said, "That was embarrassing, Benj, wasn't it?" I says, "What do you mean?" He says the applause you got from the Southend supporters was just way better than what I got from the Peterborough supporters, and we're at home, you know." And I said,
Yeah,
yeah, I said they were singing that song as well, you know. You know, and yeah, so it was a little bit of an embarrassing situation, but also a very warm
yeah.
feeling for me to know that the Southend supporters still remembered me, yeah, at that time. Yeah, it was great.
Well, to this year, it's actually the 70th year of us playing at Roots Hall, Southend. What was it like for you playing at Roots Hall? Because I imagine it's probably somewhat of a different experience to what it is now, in many ways. But what was it like for you playing at Roots Hall?
Well, firstly, I think they're better supported now than when I played. I think there's more people go
Yeah,
down
about
and watch them.
10,000 in National
Yeah,
League on one of the last
yeah.
days, which is yeah,
I feel that there is. I think of all the clubs that I've played at, I can't remember playing at a club where the supporters really got behind every
yeah,
player in the team, and I can't really remember much criticism of any of the players from the supporters in my time at Southend. There maybe there was, but you know, but I think in general the way that they get behind the team, and the support, not just there but also away from home,
yeah,
is unbelievable. Really, you know, I follow I read every single day, Monday to Friday in particular, all everything what's going off at the club. I've got the Chronicle and Echo on the Southend echo on my computer at work, and so I follow the club every single day. And just the feelings that they the supporters have
Yeah,
is, and I know there's lots of supporters around the country that's obviously got strong feelings for the club, but I think this
yeah,
bunch of supporters at Southend really do get behind the team, and they really want to get behind the manager as well. And I hope they do continue to do that under Kevin. I think this is his first, what I would call, proper season at the
mm,
club,
yeah,
and he's been there, what, 3 years now? Is it? Is this
yeah,
his first?
yeah.
Yes, 3 years. And this is
3 or
his
4.
first, yeah, his first proper season,
Yeah,
because he's not had anything, any any thing where he's been strangled, that he can't do anything. So this is his first time. So hopefully this will be the season where the club will. And I know you've got me on to talk about me, but I'm talking about the club now,
that's right.
because that's the most
Yeah,
important thing. That
yeah,
they, that their club will prosper this season, and finally get back into the football league where they belong. And that's what they really do belong, in that football league.
absolutely. Well, we're going to talk a tiny bit more about your Southend career, and then we're just going to talk
Okay.
a little bit about your after your playing career, and then if we've got time, I've got a few quick fire questions, but we'll see if we've got time
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
But we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if we've got time for that. But so in 1992, then you speak so fondly of your time at Southend. You clearly have a real connection with the club and the fans. But after just 2 or 3 seasons, you left after over 100 appearances. So was that a difficult decision to leave?
Yeah, I wasn't in a position to stay,
Mm,
because my contract had run out.
yeah,
The chairman wasn't going to give me a new one. Didn't want to give me a new one because, like I said, he thought I showed him a red card. I led the team and
yeah,
showed him a red card, so I had no choice but to leave.
mm,
I didn't want to leave the club. No, not at all. And so that was taken out of my hands, really. And it worked out well for the club, because the day I left, they signed 𝗘𝗓𝗡𝗝𝗓 to
yeah,
replace me. And the manager, Smithy, is it Smith? I'm trying to think of his name now. Passed away over the last few months. At the time, I can't remember his name. He sent me a letter saying, that he sent to Luton.
yeah,
Uh, he said I would have played you up front with 𝗘𝗓𝗡𝗝𝗓, which would have been a real honour to have played up front with 𝗘𝗓𝗡𝗝𝗓.
yeah,
But it just wasn't. It wasn't to be. Uh, but I felt, I'm always happy, um, whenever I leave a club, that I've left. I gave my all
yeah.
for whatever club I played for, and particularly Southend. I think there was that feeling there that. Yeah, it meant a lot to me to play for the club.
Well, in 2021, then, in more recent times, you were brought back out onto the pitch by Super, the Ex-Players Association.
Yeah,
Met with rounds of applause and chants of your name, all sorts. How did that feel to come back to Roots Hall and have that warm reception after so long gone?
yeah, it's just a great feeling. It really is, and to actually run out onto the pitch and meet the supporters again, and
Yeah,
actually being on the pitch is it's a buzz. It gives you a real buzz,
yeah,
to be on there. And I think, oh, I wish they could get me a kit and some boots, and I could play in that. Put the blue shirt on again, and play. It's of course reality. You soon get brought down to earth when you come off the pitch, and you think, oh, it's not going to happen. But it's a great feeling. I've been privileged, not only just to play football for Southend, but many other clubs. I've been very lucky, because there's so many people that would love to be a professional
yeah,
footballer, but just didn't make it for whatever reason. So I'm blessed that I was able to play, and I'm blessed that one of the clubs that I played for, and two that I actually loved playing for, was actually Southend and Northampton. So I'm blessed that I've been able to play for those clubs. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to talk in just a moment quickly about life after Southend and how you're doing now, things like that. But one thing before, the last thing on Southend, really, if we talk more recent times, we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but obviously since you've left, there's been so many issues at the club. With Ron Martin coming in and so many issues going on at the club. How's it been to kind of watch that from the sidelines as a fan and not really be involved with the club as a player? You've had to watch it as a fan. How's that been?
It's been really scary, frightening.
Yeah,
The thought of the club going under,
yeah,
and when you see what happened to Bury, um, it's not me getting carried away. It could have happened,
yeah,
and because it happened to Bury, and I followed that, and and I thought, nah, they won't go under, and then they did.
yeah,
And with Southend, I thought it went so long. There's so many court meetings, and everything
yeah,
going on, and that, and I thought, oh, they're not going to get away with it. But when these guys came in and finally took the club over, I know it was a very difficult period,
yeah,
uh, but I was just so happy. When it was reported that the deal had been done and been signed and everything. But yeah, it was really, really scary. Ron Martin was obviously protecting himself and
yeah,
everything. And he did put a lot of money into the club. That must be acknowledged. But I'm not sure he covered himself in glory what he did after really. But
no,
I think the most important thing for me is that now that's over,
yeah,
we can hopefully move on, be
yeah,
positive, and look forward to hopefully to some success this season for
yeah.
the management and the players and the supporters. Um,
Absolutely, it's yeah, much better times at the club, and I think you can even see in the transparency of how with the when they announced the season tickets, they showed a pie chart of how they spend money on a match day, things like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
just shows how far we've come, I think.
yeah. If it was closer to me, I would come to a lot more games really. But it's a fair way for me to
Yeah,
travel. But I do go to Northampton every now and then, but I would certainly I would certainly, if I had a chance, and certainly I think I missed one or two games this season. I didn't realise they were playing not far from here, Birmingham and things like that.
yeah,
If they are, if I, hopefully I'll be able to get to see them in one or two of the away games more this season.
hopefully
That's what I'm looking
that'll be
forward
nice.
to.
That would definitely be nice. So if we talk about a little bit about your time after Southend, then I believe you went into a managerial career at one point as well. So obviously you played for Luton afterwards, but I believe you also managed a few clubs such as Southend and other clubs as well. So how has life been after Southend?
Uh, yeah, I sort of. I managed I sort of ran Northamptonshire County under 18 side,
Mm,
and I also took the girls for a few games as well, and I really enjoyed that.
mm,
The girls under 16 side, and then I was also involved with the under 14s at Northampton Town for a year or so. I was very proud of what I did there with the youngsters there,
yeah,
um, and I ran Corby Town for a season. Uh, that was very difficult there. Um, and I ran a team called War Boys Town, who were in the Regions League. They just wanted to survive. They had no money and what have you, and that, and so they just wanted to survive in the Regions League, and that, and which I did. I kept them in the Regions League 3 years running, and then I managed another team called Wiz Beach Town. That was very difficult as well. Um, and then I went to Southend Town Rangers. Unfortunately, just after the murders there,
mm,
um, and I'd sort of been there for. I said to the chairman, "Why did you get rid of the last manager? Because he finished second in the league." And he
yeah,
said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, he said that you'll never beat that. He said, and I said, well, why have you given me the job then if you don't think I will? He said, because too many of the other clubs have got better budgets. And I said, okay. So, but anyway, 2 years later, I won the league for them. We won the league,
Nice.
and I love challenges. And yeah, we won the league there, and I was there from 2006 until 2012, and I got tired with the travelling, really. I think as much as anything, and decided I resigned, and I haven't. Oh well, man. Oh, I did. I ran a team called 𝗕𝗘𝗡𝗝𝗝𝗡, and that was the worst decision I ever made because Brian Clough wouldn't have done any better than me. The chairman said I'd get 30 players to choose from every week. Well, I didn't. I didn't get 30 players. In fact, on Saturday morning, I'd be having to ring round to get players and get players signed, and it got to a stage where there was one game where there was 11 players, including me. So I ended up playing in goal in that game. But yeah, it was ridiculous. So I stopped there, and I just thought I'm not going to do it anymore. I moved away from that. I worked for Royal Mail for 5 years, and then I went into the tool hire, working for a company in near 𝗘𝗘𝗡𝗝𝗝 in 𝗕𝗘𝗡𝗡𝗡. And then I left there, and my colleague and I bought a business, another tool hire called 𝗘𝗘𝗡𝗡𝗡 Tool Hire, and I'm running that by myself now. I've been running that since 2012 by myself.
Amazing. Well, I think just to wrap it up, then, we'll just do a few quick fire questions. I've just got a few to wrap it up, so it's nice and light-hearted. It's been so interesting hearing about your career. So yeah, I've just got a few written down. So if we start then, who was, if you don't have an answer to some of these, no worries, but who was your favourite boyhood club?
Notts County.
Notts County, nice. Who was your favourite player growing up?
Pelé.
Pelé, yeah, good choice. Best player you played with?
Brian Robson.
Best player you played against?
Paul Gascoigne.
Wow, that's not a bad answer at all. Favorite kit you played in?
Favorite kit?
Could be any club.
Favorite kit I played in? Probably like the Southend away kit, the yellow one.
I'll try and put that on screen. Nice. What was the proudest moment of your career? Was it the Bury game?
Of my whole football career, it's well, when I was at Northampton, when my boss who ran the academy said there was only going to be 4 players who were going to be given contracts, so just concentrate on improving those 4 players. So I went into the dressing room and I told the whole group this, and all the lads were crying, and the lads that were, who were not going to be given contracts. And I left them alone 10 minutes, came back in and said, right, if you want to listen to me, we might be able to get them to change their minds. And at the end of that season, they offered all 16 of them 2-year contracts. I think that was my proudest moment ever to be involved in football. So to see those lads' faces,
wow,
really, yeah. But I think the proudest moment as a player was certainly the winning promotion for Southend United, in the way that we did it to get into the Championship. Yeah,
absolutely. What was, this might be a bit more difficult, but what was the toughest moment of your career?
I think those 3 years where we moved houses every year. Where I left Cambridge to Chester, and Exeter was good actually, but it was actually the move. I think that was the tough, because we just had my son was 18 months, and we just had twin girls. They were 4 or 5 months, and so there was a lot of moving around. It was very difficult for my wife. And I think that was probably the toughest period, along with my time at West Brom after when Ronnie Allen took over. God bless him. That was a very difficult period because you're going from being so close to playing at the top level to then all of a sudden not having a club, and I was that
Yeah.
close. But so I think people don't realise that I was really close to, breaking into the first team at West Brom, and it was just a change. And this can happen in football, and
Yeah.
so you just have to accept. I had to accept it and move on.
Well, if we move on to the next one, then I don't know if you'll have an answer to this one, but you do say that you keep up with Southend quite a lot. Do you have a favourite current Southend player?
Oh, yeah, I like. I suppose a lot of people will say Gus Scott
Yeah,
Morris, and I do like him, but I actually like the little guy in midfield. I love his bundle of energy.
Keenan 𝗕𝗡𝗡𝗡.
Yeah, I love it. In the games that I've seen him in. I love
Yeah.
his energy and
Oh,
he gives 100%, and that's
yeah.
what the fans live with, and that's what
Oh,
they
yeah.
love. Players that
Absolutely.
give 100%, and it took him a while to get into the team. But whenever I saw him, I thought he has got something. He's got this energy in that,
Yeah.
and I'm really hoping that he has a really good season this season, because I think if he does, I think the team will. He seems to have his feet on the ground as well, and
Yeah.
so I think that's another thing that the supporters like.
Absolutely. I'm
To
glad you
support,
did.
support him.
I actually had
Yeah.
him on my podcast. He's the only current player I've had on my podcast today, so I've got a bit of a
Oh,
soft spot for him. So I'm happy about that.
yeah, good.
What is the best stadium you've played in?
Um,
Would it be Roots Hall or maybe a bigger one?
well, yeah, I played in Naples in front of 50,000,
Wow.
and when I was at West Brom, it was
Mm.
one of the games where Brian Robson was away,
Yeah.
and I would normally have started the game, but I'd got myself into a little bit of trouble, but I won't go into that. Um,
Okay.
and so I was on the bench, but I went on for the last 20 minutes, and that was actually one of the most frightening experiences, along with playing at Sunderland, being involved at Sheffield United at Sunderland, uh, where the atmosphere was really, really, there's
Yeah.
20 or 30 odd thousand there. But at Naples, yeah, it was only a friendly game as well, and we got attacked by their supporters. They were throwing
Wow.
bricks at the coach and everything, and it was only a friendly game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing atmosphere, and a couple of the games that we played in Canada at Vancouver Whitecaps, um, they were televised games, and the atmosphere at these games were really good back in those days. But I think I think the last couple of games at home, uh, the Southend were magnificent. It was tremendous. I know we drew the first with Leighton Orient, but the supporters didn't care. I don't think, because we were up, and we lost to Brentford. It was disappointing. The
Yeah.
gaffer was. That's why the gaffer didn't come onto the pitch at Bury after the games. The supporters were shouting for him to come on the pitch,
Yeah.
but he wants to celebrate with them when we won the league. Hopefully, won the league, and unfortunately, we didn't do that. But that was the only thing really.
I don't know if you have an answer to this one, but do you have a favourite team to play against? Maybe Colchester or?
um, I think when you going through a time when you're not scoring goals. I remember when I was at Northampton in particular, I was going through a time where I wasn't scoring goals, and whenever we played Rochdale, I always seemed to score.
Hmm.
And I've scored against Rochdale for Peterborough.
Yeah.
I don't think we played Rochdale when I was at Southend, because we'd gone up
Yeah.
the league. But when I was at Northampton, I always seemed to score against Rochdale. So it was a team that maybe if I had not had a little run where I hadn't scored a goal, I think,
Yeah.
oh, playing Rochdale, I normally score against them. I'm away, and I did. So they were one of the teams who I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is quite an interesting one, particularly for, I guess, modern day fans. We've only got a few more. But what's the difference between modern day football and football back when you played, do you think? Maybe a difficult one, but is there anything that stands out?
It's not. It's not. I think enjoyment comes into it. I don't enjoy watching modern games nowadays.
No.
Yeah, I mean, certainly at the start of the season, I probably won't watch a lot of games. I feel that the games are negative. I see nowadays centre halves having a lot of the ball, whereas back in my days, I used to get told off as a midfield player. I used to get told off for playing the ball back to the centre halves. Why have you played it back to the centre half when you're the creative one? And I see games. I was watching the England ladies the other night where I thought, why are you passing that back when you could pass it forward? So I like to see attacking football. I think we provided it. Where the ball went forward, and the gaffer tried it once or twice in games when things were going well. He tried, we'll try and get it out from the back, and then all of a sudden the results would go against us, and he'd say, right, let's revert to just getting the ball up to Benj and Brett, and it worked better for us as a striker. When you're playing as a striker, if you know the ball's going to come quickly, then you can adapt to that quite well. But if you're not sure when the ball's going to come to you, that's quite hard at times, And I find in today's game, you only have to look at Hoyland at Man United, the amount of opportunity or lack of opportunities that he was given throughout last season. I'd hate to be playing in teams like that where you're waiting for the ball. Yeah, so I prefer back in my day the football because it was probably a bit more aggressive as well, and and there was the ball went forward more, and I think it was more exciting for the fans, and that's what it is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got two more. So firstly, who was the best manager you played under?
Well, I have to say Dave Webb because what he did.
Great answer.
With the help of the chairman at the club at the time, and he made some big decisions. At the end of that season, made some very big decisions. People like David Crown and Martin Ling and people like that. They're good players, and that.
Yep. Absolutely. We've got one last one then, and it's a bit of a cliche one. I reckon every footballer's been asked this at least once. If you weren't a footballer, what do you think you'd been?
Good question. I have not got a clue because having done it, I can't imagine not doing it. No. Actually, no, I'm telling a lie there. My favourite sport is cricket.
Okay. Yep.
And I would love to have been a cricketer.
Nice. Great answer. Yeah. Well, that pretty much wraps up the podcast then. Thank you so much, Ian, for coming on. I hope everyone enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed, talking to you and hearing about, a lot of stories that, I haven't yet heard. And I'm sure a lot of fans at home wouldn't have heard some of these stories. So it's been so interesting to talk to you. Is there anything you want to say just before I wrap up the podcast?
Just thank you to everybody involved at the supporters in particular at the club for the support. Over the years, whenever I go down and come out onto the pitch, for making me feel really welcome. I really, really, from the bottom of my heart, do appreciate it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Ian, for coming on. Thank you, everyone at home, for watching as well. Because as I said at the start, this is the last of season 1. Don't worry, it's not going to be a huge gap or anything between this and season 2. Season 2 will probably start next week, something like that. But yeah, thank you everyone for your support. Thank you, Ian, for coming on. And yeah, if you did enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe. I've been Finn, it's been Ian. Thank you very much. Season 1 over. Thank you, Ian.
Pleased to meet you.